Freedom from the food system. Some of you were, some of you participated a bit in the OwnStream original freedom from the food system like a couple years ago, but we called it the freedom from food and medical system. Essentially, when you get free of one system, it starts a chain reaction that causes you to recognize where you might be caught in other systems. So we start asking questions so that we know where we're caught in systems. There's this piece about, our whole lives, the food system has been pretty much how it is. They've amped it in the last 50 years, but essentially the food system has been designed to encourage us to eat a certain way, encourage us to eat certain things, encourage us to be fearful of not having enough. Now, whether they did that intentionally or not, that's not our focus. Our focus is, what is your relationship with food? I just want to back up just a tiny bit and share my experience. When I started with food and nutrition, I was 16 years old. That's a lot of years ago. I started with uh, she was a health consultant. She worked out of a health food store. It was a very, very tiny health food store. But I was 16 years old and I was super puffy. I wasn't overly overweight. I was pretty thin, maybe underweight. There was a whole bunch of things that I was already dealing with when it came to symptoms. Uh, I can't even tell you like what it was to live a life of headaches 24/7. Like, never did I have a moment where I wasn't with a headache. And then by the time I was probably in my 18th year, I was dealing with migraines, probably 3 times a week minimum for 24-hour periods. So I had no choice. There was nobody that was going to help me other than to give me something to suppress. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. I'm already working at a diminished capacity. And then I start adding suppression on top of that. Eventually one day it'll catch up. For whatever reason, I understood somehow, somewhere, even though not consciously. And so I started with foods, and it took me a lot of years. I looked for practitioners to help me, but eventually I put enough pieces together that I was probably dealing with maybe a couple migraines a month or maybe headaches, a few days a week, that kind of thing. When I really put enough of the pieces together to really connect, it was really about getting rid of the accumulation. It wasn't about eating certain foods so that I felt better. Like, of course, I could do caffeine and it would, get rid of the headache for a little while. Of course, I could do a stimulant and it would get me through the day, or many stimulants. Chocolate was my one, a lot of chocolate. And when the puzzle pieces came together in a way that I was able to go, really? I'm not trying to manage symptoms anymore. I'm getting rid of the accumulation. I'm bringing down the noise. And so I started doing that. I went on this journey of bringing down the noise. And I'm going to give Medical Medium some credit because there was a couple pieces that fit in the puzzle that I was already putting together that just blew it out of the water. It was like, oh, there's the picture. Like, really, there's the picture. I'm bringing food back to nature. Because as soon as I do that, I create an environment for this to go into homeostasis. Because that was something that I was always working with, but didn't have those couple pieces to really complete the picture I was working on. I was pretty serious for 18 months. That's all I did. Yeah, I had young kids and all of that. So that was what I needed to do. But I pretty much decreased anything outside of what I needed to do for my family. After 18 months, something really started shifting. I really heard what this body wanted and needed. And it was less and less and less and less food. But I had to work through those pieces of fear. Well, if I don't eat enough, I'm going to fade away. If I don't, eat the right foods, I'm going to end up with, rickets or some wild disease that is supposedly, cleaned up, even though we have individuals with those now. It used to be when you traveled across the seas on a ship, that's when scurvy and rickets and things like that showed up because you didn't have access. Well, we have that now. We have individuals doing that now because they're so malnutritioned. But let's pop back in here where food started falling away. And I was listening, and pretty soon it was raw, and then it was juices, and then it was nothing. The body didn't want anything. It didn't want water. It didn't want living water. It didn't want food. It didn't want anything. I was like, okay. I could have fought it at that time, but I was finding that energy was so high. There was no crankiness. There was none of that you would think of when you do cleansing or fasting. Why? Because I'd already brought down the noise. It's not like I was putting myself into a massive detox or anything like that. So I went in and I started studying. I was like, what's going on? Truly, what's going on? So I started studying things like breatharianism and stuff like that. I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm not breathing a certain way. I'm not doing all these other things that they're saying that you need to do in order to be nourished without food and water, etc. So what's going on? I started using what we call the freedom process now just to connect with any accumulation, any fear that I had around food. Now, I'm going to just jump out of this story for just a second because this isn't what we're here for. We're not here to eliminate food and water. Okay? So you're not coming to learn how to get rid of all that. You're coming to check out divine nutrition, which means that you're not attached and controlled by food. You bring down the noise and then you listen to what this body's asking for. And that's what we do through the 12 weeks is just that, coming to this place where you can really have a powerful conversation with this body, with that point of reference, which you are. So months later, there was times when there was just juice for weeks. There was times when there was just water for weeks. There was times when there was nothing again for weeks. And now it's I do food or I don't do food based on what this body asks for. But the beautiful piece of it is I'm not limited. So just like we do in other intensives, this whole process brought back the whole range. So you don't get to dictate necessarily to the body anymore because the body is communicating loudly enough that if it says, I want a hamburger, what do? You choose the best hamburger that's available and you have a hamburger. Sometimes the body asks for that. But in most of the diets, in most of the philosophies, the food ranges become extremely limited. That's not what we want. We want divine nutrition in that whatever's animating this has the ability to open it up to all of this. The whole range, right? We want freedom in how we do food, but we want it in a way that it's not coming from addiction, which is again very limited. We don't want it to come from that place where I live by philosophy, so don't you dare even suggest that I would eat that. Okay, so that's rejection, right? Versus, does this body? I get a clear yes or a no. And often it's this much that I want or the body wants versus like this much. There's no more stuffing ourselves. We're not turkeys. Seriously, we're not turkeys. But why do we do all of this? That's what we'll discover. And that's what we'll play with. Because some of you right now are bringing down the noise and it feels like a lot of different, a lot. And that's okay. That's part of the process. That's part of you getting all the accumulation out of the way so that you can hear what this body is really asking for. Because let's face it, some of us have a lot of accumulation when it comes to the physical food piece that rolls into the mental, emotional aspects. Okay. If you weren't able to get food today, what would be the first thing that would come up for you? If you weren't able to get any food, like you were locked in your house, there was no food in the house, the grocery stores were down, you couldn't leave your house for some reason, what would come up? We want to know what that is because that's what controls you. And that's what we're going to do, okay, over this period. Now, again, I'm back to having that range, but that's not where I started. That's not where I started. I was a vegetarian for 25 years, strict, super strict, without some things, but that wasn't the whole picture. Then I went strict vegetarian for years. But you go way back, my family raised cattle. That was what was put on the plate was big old T-bone steaks and potatoes. That's how I grew up. So I've gone through all of the different, the only thing I've never done is, a full-on ketogenic diet in whatever label you want to give it. And there's a reason for that because I don't think, anyway, without going into that, I have absolutely no judgment. It's just not something I've personally done for myself. But I've gone through all the philosophies. I know how they work. I know what they promote. So that's where we're going to go is we're going to look at all sorts of things. And we're not going to push. We're not going to go fast. We're not going to, you know, work you over in any way, shape, or form. There's lots and lots of space. It's just about exploring and starting to communicate with this body better. My daughter brought me this morning. Everybody knows what these are, right? Okay. Now, will the body eat this or not? I don't know. Either it will or it won't, or it will pass it on because just because somebody put this on my desk beside me doesn't mean that the body is going to eat it. I don't have to say no. I'm like, I don't know. So it will sit here and I will watch to see what happens because either it will happen or it won't. And that's why, because how many of you would have like your most chocolate was my favorite food? Like it was one of the food groups for a long time. How many of you would have that sitting beside you and it might sit there for a week or two, right? How fast would it be gone? Well, that's where we take the control back. I wish I could. I just had to there. But it's okay. We're on Zoom. Thankfully, I can't do that. Elfie, luckily you don't like them, but what would it be for you to have sitting your favorite piece there? Okay. So during this 12-week, quite a few of you are familiar, but we're going to also be so toast would be gone really fast. Hey, I can connect. um, Throughout the 12 weeks, we're going to be using the freedom process as well. And Jenny, can you just speak to the freedom process and why we're going to use that?
Mm. Giggling at Alfie's toast comment because
I know, and Karen saying she really misses
that
toast.
chocolate would sit there for me too. If someone made a good piece of toast with a bunch of butter on it, I'd be right there. So
Well, that's
toast.
what Danny's saying he's eating a ton of right now because he's like, okay, Monday. Ooh, I might have to quit butter. I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
know. We'll see.
we'll see. And that's a good lead in for the freedom process piece on this. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Yep. So what I want to share a little bit first is um just expanding on what Judy talked about with a journey with food. And I've had a similar one where most of my life I've dabbled in and out and tried everything. Everything, everything, everything. And I realized the one component that I wasn't integrating in was dealing with all of the beneath stuff that was driving all these compulsive behaviors in food for me. I had a lot of mental emotional accumulation, and I could get really good at white knuckling through a lot of things for a long time, and then it would crash and burn. So I was a really um, extreme swinging pendulum all the time. And most of it too was done with beating myself up for not being able to follow through with stuff. So fast forward all this time, 2.5 years ago, I met Judy, and when I reached out to her for help, which was kind of a desperate cry in an email that said, I can't do this anymore. I literally cannot keep doing this with food. My body hurts. I'm just defeated. And I asked if she would help me just once a month to help me get on track because I knew I had enough tools in the practical sense with the food pieces. But little did I know that our meetings had nothing to do with food. We would get together and she was doing the freedom process with me, but I didn't know it was the freedom process. And neither did she, because that's an evolution that we've talked about before. But she kept bringing me back into my body, bringing me back into my body, bringing me back into my body, and asking me questions about where is your tension. And I would have all these memories, traumas, stories, instances come up. And every time she would stop me and say, where do you feel it? And breathe into your sides. And I think we rarely talked about food, but what started happening was the accumulation that was actually driving me into these incredibly harmful in the way that it would just exhaust my body, addictive patterns started to loosen. And so now fast forward, excuse me, I ended up doing the practitioner program with her that she does for people that want to help people with their food pieces. And then the Freedom Process also has a facilitator program that I'm part of. I'm still working through some of those old deep patternings that I had with food, but I can do it in the moment, real time, even as they still happen sometimes. And so the beautiful piece of this, of what we do here, is that this isn't about blinders on, head down, do it or you fail. And there are some instances, and I say this over and over, if there's people that do have real, serious things going on, there's going to be a period of time where you do that, but it's for something. But the freedom process piece has helped me as I'm going along to be kinder to myself, to question why I'm doing the certain things I'm doing, to notice in my body where I'm feeling it, to allow the things to come up around my food relationships and have that grace and ease in this body as I'm journeying. And so I'm still a work in progress with that because I'm 51 years old and I started food like disordered, whatever you want to call it, at age 9. I was cranking my belt on my body at age 9, looking in the mirror saying, something's wrong with this body. And so that's a lot, that's years of accumulation that just keeps coming and showing me. And so for me, the beauty in this has not been, it's been changing the food piece, but the real depth has been coming deeper into the body and noticing where that tension is and really doing the very best I can in every moment and stopping and breathing and just feeling what's going on. And knowing that what needs to be loosened will loosen. And the more I do it, the more I get to be shown that I'm really I'm a steward of this piece of nature. I do my best every day, excuse me. And it has its own intelligence, and I get to facilitate it with the breath. I get to go into those places where the tension is held, because that tension holds a frequency, it holds a pattern. And when it breaks open, I'm at the point now where I can feel what's leaving and still stay in the body, still have my feet in the ground. Sometimes it's a little bit of rolling around or, excusing myself to make some noise and do some things, but I'm here with it. I never used to be able to do that. I used food as a drug for a long time. I was a binge and purger. It was just stuff it so full that I don't feel, and then we'll see what happens. So, this is a whole encapsulated, amazing way to come into the food freedom, because it's really whole being freedom.
Yeah.
And the freedom process has helped with that piece. It's instead of just going, well, I'm just going to follow this protocol that has yummy food or healthy food on it, but we get to bring it fully into the body and keep letting go of things. And then you can come into the place like Judy was speaking of, where it doesn't have to be super strict. But I'm still working on those pieces. That's where I'm at now. I'm helping because I had a long time of I won't go out of this range. And so I'm journeying through that now, and it's really interesting to watch where the mind still tells me, if you eat that, you're screwed. Okay. And I'm still here. I'm not dead. I haven't gone sideways. Pretty sure everything's functioning right, but I have to hear that because that's the stuff that I stuffed down or I believed in the past.
And that's where we go. Just like Jenny was saying, this isn't about managing symptoms. That's not what we're here for. We recognize where we've been managing symptoms so that we can recognize why, what's behind that. And then from there, we get to create space so that it can let go of us. So now Jenny's to the point where she's checking it out. Like, what does this mean if I go into this food that I should never have gone into, right? What does it mean if, and that allows her to recognize where there might still be some catching going on. But if we're not going to manage symptoms anymore and we're not going to use food as drug anymore, what are we using it for? What it was intended for. One, enjoyment. Two, nutrition. And three, whatever you want. But because it comes from a natural place, not because you're driven towards it, not because you want love and you're stuffing for it, not because you're trying to fill a hole, not because you're trying to, I have no energy, I need more energy. Well, that's not exactly how it works. It's not exactly how it works. So we go from managing symptoms, dropping underneath, releasing a whole bunch of the things that were driving you, to having absolute pure direction as to where it can go for you, as to what's going to be beneficial for you. Okay. It isn't going to be about prescribed foods totally. I'm going to talk about foods and which foods bring up noise and which foods bring down noise, but it's not about sticking to a philosophy. I know lots and lots of people that do it differently. The way that I share back to nature with foods is not right for everyone. There's some foundational pieces that are really powerful for the human body for everyone, but that doesn't mean there can't be a couple pieces that are a bit different. And it is about collapsing what foods are good and what foods are bad. That's a collapsing piece that we'll play with. Because who says? For one person, um, I don't know, what could we use? Meat. Let's use meat. Let's get right into it here. For one person, meat could be really, really detrimental when it comes to the accumulation and noise they're dealing with. And for the other person, that might be something that's really important in order to help them actually keep their feet on the earth. Like, so there's different reasons that we use foods. So it's about recognizing that we get to drop this good and bad and this scary and not scary and on and on and on by just bringing it back to nature as much as possible and your nature. So why wouldn't nature know what nature needs? It makes it pretty simple, doesn't it? It's just we've been programmed and we've been told that this is how it is. So a lot of what we'll do is creating space and unlearning, because it's the learning, the teaching that we were taught that causes us still to be controlled by food a lot. So let's see what happens. But I don't want to give all the goods away today. So let's see what questions you all have for Jenny or I as far as how this might serve or where we're going to go or any concerns you might have as far as food goes.
Judy, I do want to bring one thing up that I feel is important when this goes out for other people that aren't familiar with this program. Many of us in here have heard it before, but the go slow to go fast piece and the step across process, I feel like the step across that you share is a real um important piece because it allows for the sustainability and the not getting polarized into the good and bad pieces. So can you just touch on that either after the questions or now, those two pieces?
Well, let's do it now. Step across process is from where you are right now. If there's addictions or there's control that's happening by, like, if food is controlling you, if your actions are being influenced by food, then we don't want to take you from there to um, where you ultimately will end up, whatever that is for you, in a day. Like, okay, stop eating all of this, start eating all of this, don't eat this, don't eat that, eat a quarter of what, you know, you have been eating by tomorrow. Okay. It's going to blow everything up. The mind, the emotions, you're going to be cranky, ogre, puddle on the floor. We don't want that. We want to go from where you are to listening to the body, adding. This is a step across process. We're going to keep dropping accumulation because it will happen naturally when you create space. And then over a period of time, you'll find that it's just naturally happening. You didn't have to think about it. So the step across process is we're going to take a step at a time to get across the canyon from where you're being controlled by food and the food systems and the mental aspects of it, the emotional aspects of it, the spiritual aspects of it, to where you're on the other side of the canyon where you are free. That's a pretty big leap across the canyon. Let's take steps at a time. Okay, so that way it's sustainable, because if you did all of those things tonight, I gave you a list of things, I gave you a whole bunch of tools and you did them all, and tomorrow you were eating a quarter of what you normally eat and all of that, you'd go, no, thank you, within days. There's some individuals that are really, really constitutionally strong. They might last a few weeks, maybe a month or so, but then it would be like, no way, because you're coming from a mental pushing process versus bringing it back to nature and allowing nature to speak to you. It's not beneficial. So that's the go slow to, or that's the step across process. And that's it. That leads into the go slow to go fast. If we try to eliminate stuff, it creates a big void. Whereas if we bring in the things that we're hearing the body needs, it often comes in a way where it pushes some of the things that are not beneficial out. So we're not trying to create a void, which is going really fast. We're going slow to add communication on an ongoing basis so that it's accumulative in the other direction, not in a detrimental direction, but in a beneficial direction. And when I say accumulate, it's funny because it's not like we're adding weight in a beneficial direction. The accumulation is in a great direction is, hey, did you hear that? My body was so loud. I swear you could have heard that next door. Right? It's literally where the communication gets better and better, and you understand how to translate it, and you quit putting meaning on so many of the sensations and the indications from your body. So it's in that direction, it's much cleaner. So we go slow to go fast. Go ahead, Elfie.
It's interesting listening to you talk, Judy, and I did the food thing with you in January, which was really valuable. So I'm guessing this will be kind of like a supercharged version of that. What's interesting is, like I had in January, I'm still noticing this layer of some wall in me that's like, screw anybody telling me what to do about food, you know? And so I'm hearing like, it's like this war in myself. Like, I don't want to hear anything from outside. I just want to hear my body. I just want to hear my body. But it's like the thing I'm pushing away by screw anybody outside telling me is like the projection of the block that is stopping me hearing myself. Is that how you would see it? And so for someone like me that's maybe having that reaction, this 12 weeks might work on chipping away at that block. So then there's like the space and ease to, I don't know, take in what's useful from the outside, but to have the space to hear this body from inside, from that open place, and not from some warring place of, well, is that true? Is that true? Is that true? Like, you know, which just ends up in a sort of gaslighting kind of head fucked by the mind in a way. Yeah. I mean, is that sort of an example of what you're talking about? The kind
You
of
nailed
stuff
it.
that might come up. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you nailed it. Because if you're rejecting taking a look, there's something there that wants to maintain control.
Mm.
And that's okay. Either your feet will bring you or they won't.
Mm. But
Either
it's normal to have that. It might be normal to have that, like, I don't know, like kind of.
well, it's absolutely normal because that's what's been happening your whole life is somebody's been telling you what to do with food. Make sure you do this much calcium and make sure you do this. Excuse me. Make sure you do this much, protein, and make sure you do this much. You think about a food, a food pyramid, which, oh man, throw that one out the window. But you think about that, that's a way that you've been programmed or told how to do food. And then as soon as you go against that, because most individuals in school have been given some kind of a guideline that is promoted. culturally or locally or, food guidelines. If you go against that, you're already a rebel. And where does that come up in your body? And so the warring that you have around food is going to come from these subconscious and directed pieces that we're all exposed to, whether we like it or not. So how do we create enough space so that you're doing what you're doing without warring with anybody else? Like, you're doing food the way you do food, and you have to defend it to other people. We don't want that anymore. That's a way that food controls. So we want to take a look at that, and we want to drop underneath where that's happening, where that's coming from. And we want to create enough space so that there isn't a reason for war anymore. You're not having to willpower yourself out of war, out of control, or into control. You're actually allowing for most of it to drop away in a way that you've unlearned. And now there's space for that communication to happen. I don't want to tell you how to do it. I have a way that I help people to bring down the noise in their body. Don't get me wrong. I know what worked for me and thousands of my clients. Okay. And I want to help with that because sometimes it's really important to use food as a drug until you don't need it anymore, but not in a suppressive way, in a way that allows the noise to come down, the accumulation that's physical to drop out or to be eliminated. And then from there, it's so much easier to hear what's happening in the body. Now, some people don't have to go through that. I get it. And not everybody's ready for something like that. But that's a really quick and easy way to get rid of all the noise that would stop you from hearing. Like, imagine 100 radio stations happening all at once. That's how most people's bodies are. Oh, there's pain over here, there's sensation over here, there's pressure here, there's, oh, no energy there. There's 100 radio stations going on all at once. Bringing food back to nature and using food as drug can go whoop, 2 radio stations. Now you can actually hear instead of hearing just garble all the time. And then from there, wow, the body speaks. And pretty soon, who knows what's happening with food for you because it becomes your path. So we brought down the noise, and now your path is opening up and the range comes back. So you drop it down to use food as a drug in a good, positive way, not in a side effect way or anything like that. Bring the noise down, and then away you go. Again, not everybody's going to use that. And that's okay. We don't have to use that because this 12 weeks stands on its own. It's all about increasing the communication with your body and listening, going slow to go fast, step across, freedom process in a holistic way with a W. Holistic. You are a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual being. We want to address all of that. Okay. Go ahead, Greg.
Hi. Well, I just want to say I know I'm really out of touch with my body, but so I've never had a problem with food my whole life. But then 5 years ago, when I was trying to manage symptoms, I started looking at food first with Robert Morse, so I was like totally fruit, and then medical medium. And one of the things that happened with medical medium was I cut out a nutritional yeast, and my migraines stopped. So I'm fearful about bringing that back into my life. But so where I am now is like right now I'm drinking my celery juice, and next it's going to be orange juice, and then apple juice, and then it's going to be the heavy metal detox smoothie. And my whole day is on a strict regimen that I follow. I'm like a machine. So, I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say or where I'm going with this, but I'm not what I used to be. I mean, I used to eat whatever I felt like eating, and and I was happy with that. So I don't know. I just wanted to put that out there.
So there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, Greg. Nothing wrong at all. I'm not going there at all. What it is that fear in being exposed to something that you're not doing right now, that's affecting your system. So if you have fear
Yeah.
that if you go away from this very strict protocol that you're on, which you may need to stay strict with for a while, I know what you have going on, but if you have fear that if you went off these protocols that you would be really significantly ill or you would degrade really quickly, then that fear is hiding out underneath and it's still there and it's affecting you anyway, even if you don't do those foods that you've chosen to stay away from.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
And that hurts. That hurts your body from the inside. So the fear is just as detrimental to you as some of those foods, say the yeast, the nutritional yeast that was causing migraines. That fear causes aging just as quick as some of the other foods that bring up a ton of noise in the body. And you don't have to. Like, one of the things is I never know where someone's going to end up with their food. I never know because it's your pattern. It's your path. It's your body calling for certain things. Not me telling you how to do it, but me
Yeah.
helping you get everything out of the way so you can hear what path your body is asking to go on.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
You betcha. I think what you're doing for your body is fantastic. And I really think it's important that you're in touch with your body so that you know when you can adjust things a little bit and from your body, not from outside of yourself.
God, I can't wait to have a pizza. Oh, well, I may wait forever, but
Well, and that's another thing, Greg. You know, you may never eat the same kind of pizza that you did before. But that I can't wait to have a pizza, that's something that's coming from the mind. I don't know if your body will ever ask to have a pizza again.
yeah,
Would you like to be able to listen to your body as to what it wants?
absolutely. That is something that I need to learn.
It will be valuable for you as you move through this process. And it's something that medical medium doesn't address. It doesn't. And that's why a lot of individuals end up with pretty aggressive food fatigue where they're just like, I couldn't eat another thing ever.
Yeah,
You know, I have individuals that pushed so hard, even though I recommended something different, that they started gagging when they were eating sprouts, because there was so much food fatigue in that. And it's real. It's very
uh,
real because it's a
wow,
mental, emotional, spiritual, physical piece.
God, okay.
So we don't want you to get to the point where you're food fatigued. We want you to get to the point where you don't have to listen to others because you can communicate with your body.
I'm pretty close to being food fatigued.
Well, then it's probably time for you to open up to something
Yeah,
where you drop underneath and play with it. But there
yeah,
can be adjustments that can happen, Greg, within the protocols you're playing with.
yeah.
We'll get you
Thanks.
started.
All right.
Okay. Um, Aaron, go ahead.
I didn't expect that this would come up today, but let's see. In listening to you, first of all, my body's listening. Okay, I can tell that my body's ears are out, and this is good. But one of the things I'm experiencing is I have never in my life liked celery, and I'm having to chug down that celery juice every morning. So I'm in a war with it. I'm aware of that, but my joints feel better. So I want to know how to hold my intention about this because I really have to, I shudder to get it down. I just swallow it as fast as I can. And Lisa's been encouraging me to have more and more each because I started slow and I'm up to, I don't know, 12 ounces. And I just haven't, I'm trying not to hold that rejection, but I am. So anything you can suggest, I can tell that that's not good for me to do it that way, but I'm doing it that way.
So what happens when you recognize where you're rejecting it? You just had a physical reaction.
Yeah, I do.
Notice that.
I shudder.
Yeah, so notice that tension.
Oh, breathe into that shudder. Duh. I see Jenny's head going. Oh. So we're bringing all those resistances into the party.
You need
God,
to breathe before.
say that again,
Hold it
Jenny.
and breathe. Hold the glass and breathe into your sides as you're holding. I'm serious. And start creating space and see what happens. And then use it as that step across. It's not a rush. And just notice the information that comes up from the body.
Okay, I can do that. Yeah.
Just play with it in different ways. You'll find your rhythm in that, what works for
But
you.
what's interesting is what the sensations as we're talking that are running through me are those same terror sensations. So it's somehow connected, I guess. Yeah. I'll do it for information and see what happens. But that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
And if you get to the point where you're working with freedom process and you're still having a reaction to it, then we talk and we adjust it.
Okay.
You know, that's where Nicole helps you hack it in a way that, maybe you do it differently,
Okay.
But what's happening for most people when they're using food as drug in a beneficial way, because one of the things that happens with celery, and most people think celery is a vegetable, it's actually an herb, believe it or not. So it's highly,
So
highly medicinal.
yeah, yeah.
When you take in celery, what happens is there's a complete reaction in your body that gets rid of a whole bunch of pathogens. And when you get rid of those pathogens, they give off a whole bunch of toxins.
Mm,
That toxin causes you to feel like, but it's not the celery juice. The celery juice is actually doing what it's supposed to do, but there's a high reactivity point to it. And so there can be reactions in the body physically to that.
that's really helpful. I mean, I needed some new way to hold this. So thank you.
Well, I tell you what, I use golden seal as an herb. It's an herb too, and it tastes horrible to me. But because I know what that medicine is doing in my body, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm not controlled by my tongue.
Okay.
I'm not controlled by my belly, and I'm
Uh-huh.
not controlled by my mind when it comes to food. My feet know better how to do food than anything else.
Mhm.
So as soon as I can take my mind, my tongue, and my belly out of the equation, food and I are in a really great relationship. Because I'm in a great relationship with this body and it knows what it's asking for.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
See what happens.
I will.
All about information. That's what this whole 12 weeks is about, is all about information. That's what we're doing here. Is we're allowing information to come up. We're creating space so all that unlearning can happen. And away we go. Away we go. I love this part of the work. that I do because I see you dropping fears. One of the things that I hear a lot about from a lot of people is how hard they're working to grow enough food for themselves. And I'm thinking, ouch, that's a lot of fear to be carrying around. I'm not sure what's going to kill you first, the fear or starvation, honestly. And so if we drop the fear, there's a knowing as to what we need and what we don't need. But doing the work that I did with food, bringing it back to nature, I went from eating a lot to the body getting so efficient that I needed this much. And then a little while later, it was even more efficient and I needed this much. And then it got to the point where it was so efficient, I needed very little. So how much food do I actually need on an ongoing basis if I'm not stuffing emotions, or I'm not trying to fill a hole, or I'm not trying to do all of those things that we'll address over the 12 weeks? Even if you haven't gotten rid of all the accumulation, all the noise from your body, it works the same way. It's still just starting communication with your body and developing that language, understanding that language that the body has for you. It's so freeing because think about how much of your day is filled with food. Like buying it, storing it, prepping it, eating it, thinking about it, wishing you were eating it, wishing you weren't eating it, cleaning up after it, making sure that everything in the kitchen is functional. How much of your day is spent on food? It's a very significant part of our lives. So when we can get free around that, it's amazing how much energy is available for other things. And that's not, okay, food isn't going to disappear. It's not going to disappear. It's part of our culture. It's part of our livingness. It's part of our way of expressing through this point of reference, through this body. But what if it doesn't control you to the point where it monopolizes your life? What are you available for then? Again, I'm all about bringing ranges back, not getting so limited that we have nothing other than just drudgery through life. I'm not about that. And individuals say, well, I eat whatever I want. Guess what? That's limiting too. It's very limiting because you're not speaking, you're not communicating with your body, which means that often you're running your body over. So there's a limitation that comes from that because you're missing this incredible richness that happens when you're communicating with the body. It's extremely powerful, especially if you have things in life to do. So there was a whole bunch of other things that came with, food shifting, coming into divine nutrition for me. One was I needed significantly less sleep, like significantly less sleep. And it wasn't because I was getting older, because I was, doing some kind of weird, stimulant or anything like that. It was just, there wasn't the same kind of need for resting in the physical body. So I had a lot more time. Like there's times in the night when everybody's sleeping in the house and it's dark and I'm wishing I lived in the house by myself because I'd have the music on and I'd be rocking out and I'd be doing my, I'd have the lights, there would be noise. So, okay, I'll find other things so that I'm not disturbing everybody. But I find myself still to this day going, I think I'll go for a drive, up on top of the canyon and look at the stars for a few hours because I'm not sleeping. There's no need for it. So sleep changes. Medical system, I don't even know what that is. When you come into divine nutrition and you listen to your body knows how to look after most things, right? So now the medical system is available for what I need it for, not for to try and make sure that this is managed. There's no managing symptoms. So there's a lot of other systems. I tell you what does it look like for me to buy the next house and not need a kitchen? Do you know how expensive the kitchen is compared to the living room that's just four walls? It changes the way life happens. So I don't need the same things that I believed I needed years ago. What does it look like to never do dishes because I walk out and there's food that I just eat right off the vine? I like that personally. That might not be your path. It was my path. And it's about you discovering what your path with your body is, your relationship with your food, your relationship with your body, your relationship with your, however this shows up. So lots and lots of pieces. As far as energy, man, one would think I don't eat enough for the amount of energy I have. By like, this is how much energy one would think I would have. And there's like probably double this amount of energy on a daily basis. So clarity, way through the roof. It's amazing. And that's why I love this work. Because we don't have to fight that. We can actually work with it and bring ourselves into this relationship with ourselves that allows everything else to be easy and effortless. Significantly less effort than probably what you've been living. So, I keep going on and on. Any other questions that come up for you or concerns? Yes. It is being recorded to share, Anoka. It will be up on YouTube and I'll share the link. And I would love for you to invite others. We want to have really cool people to play with in our sandbox. And I tell you what, when you don't have people shoving food at you or everything is oriented around food, there's a lot of really cool things that can happen in life. Food is not needing to be the focal point anymore. Yeah, invite everybody. Let's do it together. Okay. We won't be, we will, yeah, invite everybody. Let's do this. Let's talk about a couple practical pieces. We're going to be meeting Monday mornings for 12 weeks, starting Monday, May the 20th at 10 a.m. Eastern for 12 weeks. And I love that it's throughout the summer because we can play with different things that we want to check out to get enough information so we can create space. The sessions will be anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, depends on what we're working with. And I will be sharing lots of invitations to check things out during the week. Lots of invitations. It's not going to take a ton of time. As far as between the set, like from Monday to Monday, the invitations will just be gentle and they'll be, hey, what happens if throughout the week somewhere you play with this piece to get some information to bring back next week so that we can work with it. Okay. We want to be working with this real time. It's not like it's just information for 12 weeks and then you go out and implement it. We want to be gathering up that information and we want to be dropping as much accumulation as possible. Okay. We'll do this on Zoom, same way we're doing it today. There's a membership area in Holistic Weaver where you'll have access to replays as well. The replays from the 12 weeks will not be publicly posted anywhere. And we'll put some resources in there for you as well. Okay, so If you missed a Monday, it will be recorded. If you want to participate in a forum, in a conversation throughout the 12 weeks, we'll have that set up as well on an app called Mattermost. So there will be that ability as well to be able to share and communicate with others that are doing the same thing. Okay. Yeah, if you invite someone new, they'll have access to this automatically. If they sign up, they'll have access to this course, and that will allow them to have access to the main membership, like the complimentary part of the membership in Holistic Weaver. Yeah, so it will automatically bring them in to that, and they can play with whatever they want, or they can ignore that and just play with the course. It's up to them. Okay. I try to continue to add to the complimentary part of Holistic Weaver membership so that, you know, we can keep moving forward with this whole freedom thing. We like freedom. Holistic Weaver is all about freedom. So it's kind of exciting. We'll be adding a couple more somatic videos up there before too long as well. Jenny, she'll be doing Freedom Process, and she does that Freedom Process on a bi-weekly basis. So anyone who joins this program will also find out about that and have access to that as well. So we want to set it up so that it's all there. The resources there are there, and the feet, have you used them or not? It's up to you, up to those feet. Go ahead, Karen.
I just want to be clear. So what would, if we want to invite someone who's brand new to you, I send them what? Or I give them what? The email that I got that was originally the invitation? Or how will I do that?
So if you wanted to invite someone,
Uh-huh.
you can send them directly to Coming Events to just sign up,
Oh, okay.
or you can, and I will put this in the forum and on Facebook and all of that, but I'll send a link out for this call
Okay.
so that individuals can check it out and see if it appeals. And then we'll put a link, we'll put the Coming Events link so that they can just go directly there and sign up.
Okay.
Okay, so they don't have to have access to the membership first.
Okay. That's what I guess what I was asking. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, they can just get signed up and that'll get them access. Exactly, right there, Alfie, that link.
Okay.
And
That
Judy, do you want to say out loud your Facebook handle, Instagram, and what Alfie just put in so people that are listening to this recording know where to go to find all these pieces?
You can find information about this freedom from food systems on Facebook under Holistic Weaver, Holistic with a W, and on Instagram, Holistic Weaver. You can also go to holisticweaver.com, holisticweaver.com. And if you look up at the top, you can find Coming Events, and that's where you can sign up for it. I'll post this video to YouTube so that I can share it with all of you so that you can pass it on, invite who you think would, invite everyone. Honestly, we never know who's really going to be ready for this work. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all. Let your feet bring you if it's the right timing for you. And I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.